Hello, and welcome to the Brain Restructuring Clinic, or as we've been colloquially calling it, the Brain Reset Treatment. How are you doing today? Okay, you excited? Yes, I think you'll find that you're going to have quite a dramatic change, and definitely for the better, by the time you leave this treatment. If you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to pull up your file real quick. Okay, that'll be right. There, good. So, as I explain a little bit about the treatment, I'd like to just take a look around your head, if you don't mind. By the time that I'm done with it, and if you decide to go through with the treatment, then we can get right into it. And if it's something you don't feel is quite for you, then there's no harm done. Okay? So for examining your head and taking a look at your brain, I am going to need to be touching you. Is that okay with you? I have your consent to do that. Wonderful. So, brain restructuring. So the object of brain restructuring is to target negative thought patterns, perhaps behaviors as well, that are trapped in your brain by way of neural pathways. And we go in and reshape the pathways so that you can respond in a more desired way. So, neural pathways, we can think of these like a river. And a river, the longer it's around, generally, the deeper its course runs, the more ingrained it is. And while it is quite difficult to change the course of a river, it is quite easy to just go the way of the river rather than trying to do something different. And that's kind of how the brain works. When it finds something that works, even if it's harmful to ourselves or other people, it's just easier for it to do what it's already done and what it's always done. So this might be something like having a hairpin trigger temper. It might be something like engaging in impulsive behaviors. It might be a pessimistic thought loop. It might even be fear responses or phobias. So, what we do is we look for the areas of the brain where we see that particular target. We look where it weaves in and out through the brain. It might be just on one side. It might be on both. It might go back and forth and back again. And we reshape it. For example, we might see someone with low self-esteem. And when they make a mistake, they might think to themselves, I'm stupid, or I'm a failure, or I never do anything right. And these don't help. They don't do anything except make someone feel worse. They're not productive. So we might target that particular area. We might grab our little marker here and we target where we see that start, where it ends, and highlight the whole thing. And then we reshape that so that if they make a mistake, perhaps we focus on something like, well, that didn't quite go according to plan. Or perhaps everybody makes mistakes. Or let's try to figure out how to fix that. And now we know how not to do that again. With the goal of not ruminating and not self-flagellating, but instead moving on. Okay, so I think I've got everything sort of examined. Just get sort of a general feel about how your brain feels, what I'm feeling with the structure of it. And if we decide to go through, then I'll start taking some measurements. We'll do some markings. So is this something that you would like to continue with? Okay, so I am bound to tell you some disclaimers. I have to disclose some side effects that might happen with this treatment. So let me see here. Got it on my form. And right there. So this treatment might cause headaches, scalp tenderness, tinnitus or tinnitus, burning sensation in the hands, fluid retention, indigestion, and drowsiness. So knowing those side effects, is this still something you wish to continue with? Wonderful. So let me look up your targets. What goals you wanted. Okay, so I can see the thoughts and behaviors that we want to address. And okay, good. That's quite thorough with what we want to replace it with. So I don't think I need anything else from you. Just gonna pop this in. All right. So I'm going to get the machine in place. So this treatment is sort of an evolution of a trans-cranial stimulation, which used magnets, and it's also kind of a step up from therapy. Instead of having to go weeks, months, or years even to address a small subset of behaviors, we can do that all in one fell swoop. So let me get this in place. And I'm not going to lower it down until we've got our markings, but I can get it ready to go. There. So let's take a peek. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the target thoughts and behaviors. And my computer is just going to highlight where we might find those, and then I do a little bit of searching. And then when I find what we need, I've got a little marking here. It's not permanent, but just that we need to target. So that one came from the frontal lobe and more back to the parietal here. Okay. Good. Yeah, just on the edge there between the temporal and the parietal. Okay, and then where's this one at? Are we going to be more by the occipital? Yeah, that one's between the occipital and parietal there. Okay, and where do we end up? I'm going to have to look at the trails and see. It's almost like untangling a ball of spaghetti, trying to find one specific noodle. Here we go, right there. Good, and then we'll just look up this last one. Now, while this treatment is extremely effective, rather more effective than we thought it might be, considering its predecessors, this is something that, of course, may need to be done again in the future, whether it's for something different or if you fall back into old patterns, which isn't likely, but on occasion, especially if the neural pathway was a result of a learned behavior, if you relearn that behavior again, then that's going to negate what we've done. So I do recommend some maintenance therapy, whatever modality you wish. I mean, CBT and DBT are generally the standards we go with, but some people respond more to other types. Okay, I think that's about it. Let me just highlight them all. And we'll take a peek. But just to maintain the pathways that you have and what we've done, we do recommend that you keep up on that. Good. I think that's all good. So I'm just going to do a couple measurements here. There are a few borders we like to avoid. So we do need to make just a couple markings here. We use some of the landmarks of the face just to make sure that we're not accidentally affecting somewhere that might have some effect elsewhere. Nerves, things of that nature. There are some pretty thinner or tender spots. For example, we don't want to go right into the temple. We have a standard distance we want to go away from there. So that part can be a little tender, a little more vulnerable. We like to stay away from the Very good. So let's get that machine in place. And the last thing we'll do is take a bit of blood pressure and heart rate so we can check that throughout. It's not common, but it is a possibility that you might all of a sudden drop in blood pressure, or some people may shoot right up. So we just want to make sure that's not going to happen. And if it does, then we can intervene immediately. Now, that looks good. We'll just take a little bit of I'm going to put the blood pressure cuff, our sphygmomanometer, on this arm, if that's okay. And I'm just going to attach the dial. Make sure the valve's closed. Close that up. Good. Alright, so that's all closed. Put my stethoscope right in the crook of your elbow here. And then let's grab a blood pressure. And let that release. Good. Okay. So I'm going to take my dial off and take off the cuff. And I'll just keep this nearby. And I'm going to take your heart rate here. Just use the radial artery. The blood pressure looked good. Got a good baseline. Heart rate is also, yeah, that's within normal limits. Good. And I'm going to punch a few commands in and we'll get started. I will just be noting things down. I will be moving the machine around a little bit. I'll check in on your blood pressure and heart rate. Do let me know at any point if you need to pause, if you need to stop, if anything is uncomfortable or painful, okay? Your comfort is key here, so just let me know. Alright, and you should be starting to hear that. It's going to be kind of a strange sensation. Some people describe it akin to a brain massage as well as some brain percussion. Okay? Right, so I'm just going to observe you. Just note down and making sure the machine is doing its job and just watching for certain little signs that tell me that things are working. At times I might as well. And if you feel anything in particular, you're more than welcome to volunteer that. Good. Okay. Keep going with that. Excellent. Funnily enough, the evolution of this particular technology came about because of our memory care clinic. We found that when we were thinking of putting together that clinic, that when certain memories were exfoliated, then a person's behavior often changed. Generally for the better, sometimes for the worse. It depends on what particular memory they were ridding themselves of. We sort of took the idea of working with the memories and working a little deeper into the actual pathways, because for some people their behavior didn't change, even with very what we would deem traumatic memories or quite unpleasant memories. So when we did a little bit more of a deep dive, with some people we were able to change the pathways, and that's why their behavior changed. So then we looked even deeper into that, and the technology that came before this with the trans-cranial magnetic stimulation, people found that they could use the magnets, the brain's electricity, and they could work on very difficult mental conditions, treatment-resistant conditions. And it took a bit of time, was the problem. And it could be rather inconvenient because a lot of times people had to do it every day or several times a week. It could be quite expensive. So all of these little bits and bobs, these moving pieces, we were able to bring it together and make something that addresses all those concerns and rose above our expectations quite dramatically, really. So I'm going to take your heart rate. I'm going to do that more often than the blood pressure. If the heart rate is essentially the same, not too much of a difference, then it's likely that our blood pressure hasn't changed either. At the first sign of trouble, then we'll get into the blood pressure and address it from there. Okay. So it's gotten a little slower. So that's good. That's what we like to look for. Let me write that down. Then we can reposition and avoid some of our borders here. Another added benefit of this particular machine is it's a lot quieter, a lot more pleasant than the TCS machines in the days of yore. Good. So overall, I would say it was an improvement on all fronts. Technology's been around for actually quite a while. Just needed to be given a bit of an update. Just checking all of our little borders. Just want to keep a good eye on things. It's always good to make sure that everything is running smoothly. In hypothesis, I could leave the room, let you marinate, but I prefer to have a more hands-on approach. It also gives us more data to work with. The more people that we have, the more different sort of reactions that we have, the more heart rate, blood pressure readings we have, the more targets that we end up working with. All of these things. All of these things can only serve to help create even better technology for tomorrow. Let's bring out the blood pressure. And I can just pop the dial right in on the cuff. just checking that the valve is closed. Set scope, crook at the elbow. Gotta hear those heart sounds. More specifically, what the blood does during blood pressure is steady. Let's check in. Okay. Good. Should be looking for some of those reactions, and then I think I'll probably do a bit of inquiry. Good. So tell me a little bit about what you feel physically. Absolutely anything is worth mentioning, whether it's something in your head or it's something unrelated like a tingling in your toes or a pain on your arm. Anything physical that you can feel, I would love to know what's going on. Good. Okay. Anything else? Good. And in terms of emotional sort of changes or anything you notice, is there anything at the forefront of your mind, anything lurking in the background, even if it's just a bit of nervousness or trepidation, maybe even a little bit of fear? That is more than valid as well. Okay. And what else? Okay, that's good to know. And anything else you can think of? Alright, and in terms of mental effects, so these could be, it's primarily thoughts or things that maybe you have a calling to do, any sort of urges, things of that nature. So we have our emotional is more our feeling. The mental is going to be the thinking. Is there anything that sticks out? Don't have to be specific, but any info you can give me is more than helpful. Interesting, okay. Anything else? Yeah. Okay. Good. That is good feedback. So let's take a peek where we're at. Okay. I might need to move that around a bit, but I just want to take a look at what all we've got. Let's go ahead. We can just move that. Actually, let me bring that over here. Then we can bring this one over. There. Okay. Good. How was that feeling? Okay. It's all looking good. Everything seems to be working out just fine. Generally does, but it's good to note down that it's working normally as well. Let me just note down. And then we'll grab your heart rate. I'm just putting my first two fingers right on that radial artery there. Yeah, it's definitely even just a littlest bit slower now. Good. Okay. So between that and I've been watching your muscles have relaxed. I've noticed your posture has relaxed a bit, kind of sunk into it. These are some of the physical signs that I look for that tell me that things are coming together. I think that's doing quite well. Good. You're just resetting the brain of whatever is just not working for you anymore, so that you can go forth more in line with the person you want to be. And this just makes it that much easier. Good. Just add that in there a little bit. I think we've got just a couple of repositionings here. Right. eye contact. And the machine does just this little bit of movement. That's where you start hearing the percussion. Just making sure that that's the correct pattern. And we have the right sound, the right amount of force. Looks good. I think we'll do one last BP check. We'll do another feedback inquiry. And then by that time we should have hit all of our targets. Good. So the blood pressure is unchanged. Repositioning, right to our other marking. Good percussion. Alright, I'll just keep an eye on that. Okay. Still doing alright? Good. Looks like it's doing well. Alright. So, physical sensations. Is there anything different that you're noticing at all? Has anything changed? Anything gone away? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what about the emotional body? Any sort of changes? Anything else coming up? Good. And in terms of thoughts, the more mental side of things, any changes with the thoughts or any sort of urges, that sort of thing? Okay. Okay, good to know. Good to know. I appreciate it. Okay, so let me just check. I think we'll do one more reposition. And this will be a rather short one. This is essentially just tying everything together, really. Good, that looks good. So I'm just going to watch the body as we put all of these pieces together, fuse everything, clean it up. What does your body do when it catches up? In which I know that everything has gone together. It's kind of funny because when we first started working with this, we didn't know why that was happening. Only that it was with many people. So now it's kind of been this little funny thing. There's just a certain little reaction that most people do. It's this sort of, we call it the epiphany, when everything just clicks. And there we go. Okay. Good. Let's go ahead and take that off. Okay, and how is your head feeling? Okay, so if you're not experiencing anything now, it is possible that in about 10 to 15 minutes, any soreness, if it's going to arise, maybe a low-grade headache, if that's going to arise, that's about the time that it would happen. So if you want, you're more than welcome to wait in here or in the reception, and if nothing happens by then you're free to go. And if it does, we can provide some pretty basic painkillers. I mean, acetaminophen, ibuprofen, naproxen, that sort of thing, whatever your particular favorite is. Okay? Alright, so let me go ahead and just wipe off are little markings. They come off really easy. It's super temporary. Good. Okay. So that is gonna about do it. I don't think I need anything else from you. You've given me pretty much everything, unless there's anything you wish to add. Okay, very good. So you will be having a follow-up appointment, and that'll just get into what took, how it took, and kind of get into the weeds of it. And other than that, I don't think we need anything else from you. Okay? All right. It was a wonderful treatment session with you today. I truly hope that this gives you a sort of feeling of control and that it sets you on the path that you wish to be on. I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, it would greatly help me out if you clicked the like button and left a comment so YouTube's algorithm registers that it was a good video. If you want to see more of my work, consider subscribing to the channel. I create primarily medical, pseudoscience / alternative medicine, and personal attention ASMR roleplays. But I've done a little bit of everything from historical to sci-fi to fantasy. If you'd like to support the channel, I offer ad-free videos, early access on videos, and exclusive content on Patreon. Or I also have a Ko-Fi link for a one-time donation or a throne wish list for props and equipment. Thank you again, and I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your